Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, top 10 players for this West Virginia program heading into 2024. And I think one of my biggest takeaways upon doing the research and prep on this West Virginia team is that this team has a very clear idea of how they want to play in 2024. And it's no secret, right? We are going to run the football a lot with two really good running backs, a very good and experienced offensive line, an extremely dynamic quarterback. And when we are going to throw the football, we're going to attack the deeper third and try to hit explosive plays. And although the completion percentage might not be that high, we are going to hit explosive plays in the passing attack. And you look at how West Virginia has kind of built this roster out. It is very suitable to how West Virginia wants to play. And I think that's a massive storyline. You look at programs across the country, and I think arguably at times with Neal Brown at West Virginia, there wasn't necessarily an identity to this football program. And I think heading into 2024, you have a clear picture of how this West Virginia team wants to play. And you look at the talent across this roster, it kind of matches how they want to play in 2024. A fascinating team heading into 2024. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the West Virginia fans. Many of you guys who've been rocking with the fellas the last couple of years, you guys know we had a blast talking this program in 2023. It was a team that I don't know if every Saturday we could explain why they were winning football games, but they just kept winning football games, or were kind of one of those surprise teams in 2024 or 2023, excuse me. It was a blast talking this program. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, I would love to hear some players that you guys might think I'm sleeping on a little bit heading into 2024. It was hard to narrow down this list to just 10 players, so would love to hear some feedback from you guys. And without further ado, let's get into this. And we started with this West Virginia team is built to run the football a lot, and it looks like they're going to be able to do that heading into 2024. And I want to start with the number one player on this West Virginia team, and that is left tackle Wyatt Millen. And you look at Wyatt and say, this kid can be a top 100 NFL draft pick in the 2025 NFL draft. He has played a ton of football. He's going into his fourth year with this program. I mean, last year in 2023, 338 pass pro snaps, gave up only zero sacks, only 9 quarterback hurries. He's played over 2,200 snaps during his career. I think you've seen him get better during his time with this West Virginia program. And I think what's most exciting is, what does this kid look like heading into year 4 of his college football career? I really do think you might be looking at one of the best offensive tackles that we see in the country. And it's not going to get talked a lot about according to the national media because nobody wants to talk about West Virginia. I think this kid is an absolute stud heading into 2024 season, going to our number 2 player. And let's go to running back Jaheim White, who was absolutely phenomenal in the 2023 year, averaged 7.7 yards per carry. I mean, this is one of the more juiced up, shiftier running backs that you're going to see in the country. And you kind of look at how Jaheim White and CJ Donaldson balance each other out. That's exactly how you want a running back room to look like. You look at CJ Donaldson and just say one of the most physically imposing running backs that's going to get downhill, and he's not necessarily going to make a ton of people miss. He'll just run right over you. And then you have a kind of, I guess you'd say, change of pace running back that I think is going to get a lot more opportunity heading into year 2 in his college football career. I think this kid is an absolute stud, and I love what he can do at the second level. And this West Virginia offensive line, it's going to be good. And I know you lose some really good offensive linemen, but it's still going to be a really good unit. And if you can get Jaheim White consistently to the second level, he's going to make second level defenders miss. I mean, 32 missed tackles forced on only 109 attempts. That's an incredible number. I'm a massive fan of Jaheim White. And as he continues to kind of physically develop and take on contact a little bit better, I think his best football is still in front of him heading into the 2024 season, going into number 3. And let's talk about quarterback Garrett Green, where you'll have a lot of, quote unquote, casual college football fans that might not watch a ton of West Virginia football, take a look at the stat line and say 53% completion percentage. That's not very good. And although that's not necessarily a high completion percentage, it goes back to what we talked about this West Virginia team. That is, we are going to attack the deeper third. And you look at Garrett Green pushing the ball down the field, a 46% completion percentage, 20 plus yards down the field. That is an incredible number for a quarterback. One of the highest I've seen since I've been kind of diving into these quarterbacks. Garrett Green is really good at what they ask him to do in this West Virginia offense. And he's not going to be a quarterback that has a 75% completion percentage because he's pushing the ball down the field very often. He's good at what they ask him to do. He's not just a dual threat quarterback. He's an extremely dynamic athlete when he's asked to carry the football. And I think one other thing that really could lead Garrett Green to potentially break out in the 2024 years is wide receiver play potentially taking a step in the right direction. I mean, you bring in guys like Jaden Bray, who we're going to talk about a little later. This West Virginia wide receiver room last year, for lack of better terms, it was a problem. Like, there were just so many drops. Guys just did not seem to make plays down the field for their quarterbacks very often. And you have some guys who are just a year older. You have some guys coming in through the portal. If the wide receiver play just gets marginally better, which it's hard to see it not getting just a little bit better, I think Garrett Green has a massive year in the 2024 year. One of those quarterbacks that I could certainly see going for, almost 3,000 yards passing, maybe 1,000 yards rushing if he stays healthy and this West Virginia team kind of maxes out what they can be in 2024. Now, I think you go to number 4 and say, let's talk about the other running back, C.J. Donaldson. And this, again, goes to how West Virginia has constructed this roster. We got a veteran offensive line. We got a very dynamic quarterback, and we got 2 running backs who are absolute hammers, but absolute hammers in different ways. You look at C.J. Donaldson. He is, in my mind, one of the most physically imposing running backs that you see in the country. 493 yards after contact. And I think what excites West Virginia fans is C.J. Donaldson, his freshman year was probably better than what he was during his sophomore year. If you can kind of see him get back to form and kind of build on what he did his first 2 years, again, I think similar to Jaheim White, these 2 running backs, they're extremely young. I think their best football is ahead of them. And so if you start talking about Garrett Green, C.J. Donaldson, Jaheim White, all getting better going into Garrett Green going into kind of year 2 as being a starter, I think this is a really, really exciting offense that West Virginia has. Going to number 5, and let's talk about another offensive lineman that kind of going back into the film, I thought was just an extremely solid offensive lineman. And again, a lot of the conversation goes to Wyatt or goes to Frazier, Doug Nestor, who you saw last year. Brandon Yates has played a lot of football, and he's played at a high level. Only gave up 1 sack, 7 quarterback hurries last year, has played over 2,700 snaps during his career at West Virginia. And I love that he's versatile. And I think that's a really good thing for this West Virginia offensive line is there are a lot of guys that can move all around and kind of play, all 5 positions on the offensive line. You look at Brandon Yates, has played center, has played both the guard spots. Having a versatile offensive lineman that you can kind of plug and play all over the offensive line and just know that he's going to be an all-conference caliber player, that's a massive part of this West Virginia team. It is going to start up front, and I think they have a lot of good offensive linemen, but I think more importantly, a lot of these offensive linemen are going into their 4th and 5th years of college football, and that, in my mind, is what excites me the most about this West Virginia team. Going into number 6, and let's talk about tight end Cole Taylor, who I think has all the potential in the world. This is a massive catch radius that can operate in the middle of the field. Now, you look at Cole Taylor and say one thing that West Virginia might be able to do a little bit better in the 2024 season is kind of working those intermediate passing concepts. You look at Garrett Green, it was, we're going to throw the deep ball or we're not throwing it at all. I think West Virginia might be looking to get some of that intermediate passing attack a little bit more present in 2024, make this passing attack just a little bit more well-rounded. And you look at a guy who could not only facilitate that, but benefit greatly from that is Cole Taylor. A couple of things that I love. Didn't drop the football that much, which was rare for this pass catching group for West Virginia. Led the team in first downs, had 4 touchdowns. You look at what you want your tight ends to do. You want them to catch touchdowns in the red zone. You want them to move the chains on 3rd down. Cole Taylor did both of those at a very high level for West Virginia. in 2023, and hopefully he can just build on it going into 2024, going to our number 7 player. And let's talk about wide receiver Jaden Bray, who is a guy that was on my radar as a true freshman for Oklahoma State, then got banged up year 2, played solid year 3. I think there's a good chance Jaden Bray is the wide receiver 1 in this West Virginia offense. And again, going back to Neal Brown, just understanding what this West Virginia offense is going to be. He goes out and gets a wide receiver that's 6'2", 200 pounds, works vertically down the field exceptionally well. You look at how this West Virginia passing attack is going to go. We want to attack the deeper third. We go out and get a wide receiver who can attack the deeper third. And again, you look at the wide receiver play last year and say it left a lot to be desired. If Jaden Bray can come in and be that true wide receiver 1 that's dependable, that makes plays down the field, does not drop footballs, this wide receiver room might be very much improved from what we saw in 2023. Going to number 8, and let's talk about Anthony Wilson Jr., 80 tackles, 1 interception, 5 pass breakups last year. He is extremely versatile. He moves all along this West Virginia defense. He plays the nickel. He plays the safety role. He plays a box safety role. And he kind of does everything really well. And quite frankly, I might be sleeping on Anthony Wilson Jr. a little bit, because you look at how important these kind of players are that can give you the run support, that can give you the coverage ability in this modern era of college football where offenses are giving you so many different looks. They're making you cover a lot of ground, I should say. Having these athletes that can come in the box and help you support the run game, I think is massive. And Anthony Wilson Jr., again, a guy that did a lot of things for this West Virginia defense. Coming in at number 8 might be a little bit low on him. Going to our number 9 player, let's talk about Sean Martin. And this is, in my opinion, a big storyline for West Virginia. I think the pass rush can be a little bit better for West Virginia. You're kind of looking at who is going to give us that pass rush juice. I think Neal Brown made some really intriguing transfer portal additions. Sean Martin was a lot more disruptive than it kind of reflected on the box score, if you will, right? 5 tackles, 1 sack. That's not necessarily numbers that you're going to write home about. But then you dive a little bit deeper into the numbers and say 21 quarterback hurries that led the team. This is a guy that can collapse pockets. And I think what you're looking for from Sean Martin going into 2024 is, can we start creating or kind of turning in that havoc into creating negative plays for this West Virginia defense? That's the big storyline for West Virginia on defense, is can we get after the passer just a little bit better than what we did in the 2023 season? Sean Martin going to play, in my mind, a big role in that. And then going to number 10, Aubrey Burks, he's got to tackle better. I really like Aubrey Burks' game. He plays a very important position, that spear role where you're doing and being responsible for a lot of different things. 57% completion percentage when targeted. That's a very good number for kind of that spear role in this West Virginia defense. He's versatile. He does a lot of different things. The one thing that needs to get improved is the missed tackle rate. And I don't know if I just watched some bad games back from West Virginia, but then I look at the numbers and say 25% missed tackle rate. That is far too high for a guy that's asked to play in the box and support the run game like he is. Aubrey Burks can be a top 5 player on this team. He's got to tackle better. And I think that's why he comes in at number 10 for West Virginia, but another kind of just chess piece for this West Virginia defense. Again, really intriguing team heading into 2024. You look at the Big 12 and say, how many teams are you just saying West Virginia can't flat out beat? There's not many. Like, this West Virginia team can beat every team that they're going to be playing in the Big 12 this year. I think it's finding that consistency every single Saturday, building on the winning culture that you might have built in 2023. That's what this team needed. This team needed to learn how to win games and kind of see themselves as a winning football team. I think that 2023 season allowed them to do that. They make some really intriguing additions in the transfer portal. You can kind of sign me up for being that West Virginia fan club again, because this team's going to be fun to watch in 2024. We'll close it at that. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.